All right, guys. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Happy everybody can join us, and we've got a smaller crew today, but that's okay. It's going to build momentum. It's going to build it's going to go viral. This thing. That way, next week we'll have a full house. No, anyway, we're so excited to start back up. Hope everybody had a good break, well deserved. Did you stay here or did you go somewhere? You were there. Okay. Whether you stayed here or you went somewhere, hopefully you got some rest. And now it's back to the grind, right? Same for us too. I know, kind of a bummer, but I'm so happy that you guys are here, and then we're going to just continue. Who's here? Everybody's been here before, so it's going to be. I kind of designed my presentation for maybe some new people in the beginning of the semester, but we're going to go ahead and see what we can do here as well. Okay, so solve the riddle, win the prize. It's more of a catch than anything else. This is what we're really after. So this is not like the small questions that you may get in your classes. This is some serious stuff. What is the meaning of life? What makes us happy? What happens after this life? And then the most important question, what we're really going to talk about is, okay, so where do we get answers to these questions? They don't automatically just come to us. Because certainly you're not going to believe my words. So what is the meaning of life? Somebody want to share, according to them, what they think maybe the meaning of life? I'm not going to pick on anybody. If anybody wants to share, you can just take a guess what the meaning of life would. Babesh, what's the meaning of life? I'm just kidding.
Increasing Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. Anybody want to take a guess? Seriously? Yes. Be happy. Good. Yes. Be of service. So the question is, be happy. What makes you happy? Everything makes you happy. Okay. What's that? Your parents. Okay. Serving your parents, maybe. So serving is the meaning of life because serving can make us happy. Okay. Good. Anybody else? Because the prize comes now. Like if you guess the riddle now, then now you get the, not at the end. All right, should we start then? Okay. So the cool thing about ISKCON and Krishna consciousness and the Vedic knowledge, it's passed down through a disciplic succession. You guys heard of that, right? And what's so cool is, so like in your school, plagiarism is frowned upon. Well, in Vedic literature, Vedic knowledge, plagiarism is totally allowed and encouraged because the way we're set up is you actually learn from your elders and you pass that down. And so I've taken the liberty to take away from a lot of the senior people that I know, and hopefully I'm just passing along on that message. So, okay. The answer is here. To find out what the answer to the meaning of life is and where can we find it is in the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita is it's a religious text, but it's so much more so. It crosses boundaries of religion, if you will. It crosses boundaries of a philosophical material as well. And then also a self how-to practical guide. As we were part of a lecture at the temple a few weeks ago, where you literally can look up verses to what your symptoms may be: depression, anxiety, confusion. There's specific verses that address life's questions, practical questions. So Bhagavad Gita, not only is it going to provide us the answer that we're looking for today, which is what is ultimately the meaning of life. And it's ironic that the Bhagavad Gita, if you guys know, where was Bhagavad Gita spoken? Kurukshetra, a battlefield, right? So it's interesting when the Bhagavad Gita is being spoken on a battlefield, because in the battlefield there's two big things. Oh my gosh, I might die. What is the meaning of life? What am I supposed to do? Right? That's a question you may ask on the battlefield. What else?
Why am I doing?
Why am I doing this? Very good. Also, very practical question of, okay, so what do I need to do so I don't get killed? Right? So practical as well as the philosophical, and that's why it takes place on a battlefield. It's pretty interesting, right? So the battlefield transfers to us as our field of, our life and our life that we live, our field of activity, if you will. And Arjun and Krishna, obviously Krishna is God, and he's going to be speaking to Arjun, but he's playing the role of a charioteer. And Arjun represents all of us, all the souls. And the questions that he asked Krishna are all these questions that we, one time or other in our life, we're going to ask. Or we're going to be either asked, or we're going to ask, or we're going to think about and say, hey, what is this? I'm confused. And what do I do in this scenario? From a big picture perspective, all the way down to practical things. Okay? So this is what we're going to talk about in terms of, to answer our big questions of what is the meaning of life. Okay. The Bhagavad Gita is beautifully broken into 3 major sections. Okay. And those sections help us define what our meaning of life is. The first section is basically, how do we live? Not just exist, but how we live where we're inspired, where our authentic self, where there's meaning to life, right? Where we get up in the morning and we're going, I'm going to my class today because I'm excited about it, right? So the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita talk about what should be our actions, right? What is my to-do list today? And is that my to-do list align with my authentic self? And so where do we get that information? It's in the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, right? And then the second, or the middle part of it is, it's about love. How do we create those loving relationships, obviously with ourselves, with God, but more importantly, with the people that are around us that we care about? We want to have relationships, but we want to have authentic, deep relationships. It's in the Bhagavad Gita, how do I do that? Okay? And then the third section is to let go. So how do we determine what to focus on and what to detach ourselves from? Meaning, what's not to focus on? So what we don't want to do is spend our time focused on things that don't really matter, that are temporary, and neglect the things that are really meaningful to us. That makes sense, right? So the Bhagavad Gita basically teaches us how to live on a daily basis, how to create meaningful loving relationships. And then the third and final is, what is the most important things that we need to understand so we can differentiate between the temporary and the eternal. Yeah? So that's how it's set up. And this is going to help us define our riddle, if you will. So the yoga of living, if you will, the first 6 chapters, it's called karma yoga. You guys are all familiar with karma yoga? It's the yoga of action. How should we perform action in our daily lives that will be fulfilling for us, that will nourish us? So instead of just going through the motions, if you will, and going to school because your alarm clock rang and you looked at your schedule and you got an 8 o'clock and a 12 o'clock and a 3 o'clock today, yeah, you're doing your work. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But how to do it with meaning and purpose. And that's really what karma yoga is all about. And that's what you learn in the first 6 chapters is how to act how to act in a way that's going to fulfill us, because that's what we're all looking for, right? Fulfillment. Because when we're not fulfilled, we start looking for that missing part in other areas, right? Some people start looking in areas where drinking or whatever, right? And so if we can learn how to perform our daily lives with fulfillment and meaning, then we won't need to turn anywhere else. Yeah, does that make sense? And obviously the goal is to be satisfied with the actions that we take in our lives, and is basically aligning our actions with our intentions, will of our character, and what our value system is. So how many people know their value system? And do they live by their value system? Yeah? Good. How many people want to learn and identify? Because we're at a, you guys are at a formidable age right now where it's your early 20s. You're learning how to prepare yourself to go into the world, right? Getting your education. And then you're also really figure out what matters to me the most, right? And that's an evolving thing, so to speak, too, is Rishabh knows what matters to him right now. Like, hey, this is my value system that I don't want to compromise when I start into this world, right? But Rishabh will admit also is he'll add on to that as time goes as well. That will evolve to a certain extent. But the point is, we want to have a value system, and then we want to act with that value system. That's what gives us fulfillment. That's what gives us confidence when we talk to people. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So I have a parable of a stone breaker, really, and it's not quite from the Bible. I think it's an old Chinese parable. But has anybody ever heard of that stone breaker? Okay. So long time ago, there was this stone breaker, and every day he got up and he just went and broke stone. He was very talented. He could make nice statues of whatever you do with breaking stone. Okay, he was really talented, but he got kind of disillusioned with his life, kind of like sometimes we do. And he saw a very wealthy merchant come in one time and give him a project to do. He's like, look at this merchant. There's people all around him. He's so wealthy. Look at his clothes that he's wearing. And he became envious. Man, I would do anything to trade my life for that wealthy merchant, right? And so it just so happens there was a genie hiding in his closet. He says, puff. He became a wealthy merchant. So he's like, oh my God, this is great. Now look what I have. I don't have to, chisel stone every single day. But what he realized is, along with the riches, also came some extra baggage. Oh my gosh, I really have to work really hard to be rich. Like, I don't want to get up so early and do the things that I need to do to make money. And then I've got envious people always wanting things from me. I think they're my friends, but they're really not my friends. They really want my money. And so he's like, okay, you know what? This is too good. This is not what I want. This is not what it is at all. So he goes, okay, poof. The genie turns him back into a stone maker. And then he's like, a tax collector comes back from the king. And he goes, you got to pay up. He goes, now that would be a great gig. If I could be the king, I don't have to do anything except my ministers will collect taxes and I can enjoy the good life. So poof, he became a king. And so he did. He had a royal palace and whatever all comes with being a king, right? And he enjoyed it. And then he found out that there's heavy responsibility being a king. Every choice that he makes affects his entire kingdom. So he starts making these decisions. And when he was talking to his advisors, they're all telling him different things. They're arguing. He's like, I don't know what to do. So he makes a decision, and then the whole town gets upset at him because it affects him. He's like, oh, I didn't realize it. So then he's like, okay, I'll change it. Then the other part of town gets mad at him. So he realizes, uh-oh, I don't want this either. So poof, he's back to being a stonemaker. So you get the gist, right? So when he's finally back to being a stonemaker, he's like, you know what? I really like what I'm doing. I'm actually pretty good at this. I don't have the stress that the merchant had of making money. I don't have the responsibility, the heavy responsibility of the king, that every decision that I'm affecting somebody, good or bad. And so what's the moral of the story here? Can anybody tell me?
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Your action that you have, if you align yourself, this is where the alignment comes. If you align your dharma with your actions, right, then you'll be content. But if you try to take somebody else's dharma and perform that, that's when you'll feel a little discontent. Does that make sense? So there's a specific skill set that we all have that you know, it's a very complex subject we can go into, but just to make a long story short, you guys were born with a certain skill set to perform a certain duty based on karma, et cetera, et cetera. You were born in a family that will help nourish your dharma. So you were born to do exactly what you're going to set out to do. And so if you were to change that for riches, to impress somebody, right? Like the world's always beating on us. You got to do better. You got to do more, right? But not everybody, that's not everybody's thing, right? So, so happiness can be gained through fulfillment, which is doing your duty and not looking at somebody else's duty and becoming envious of it. That's the moral of the story. Make sense? And that's covered in the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita called Karma Yoga. Action aligned with our value system. Yeah? Question? Yes.
So when you speak about finding your duty to do, that is your dharma, and not replicating something else, the dharma.
Yeah.
To attain happiness, is it identification of your duty from happiness to achieve happiness? Is that the cycle?
Say it one more time.
So we do a particular karma as per our duty needs, as per whatever you're designed to do. Just because in the end we find contentment, we are happy, satisfied, peace. But to identify your track, doesn't it start with happiness again? Because I will do what I feel makes me really happy.
Yeah.
And I do that repeatedly over time. I have a content life.
Okay, that's a very good question. So first of all, it's 1/3 of the equation that I'm going to talk about today about what makes us happy or content fully, or what's the meaning of life for us. And if I understand your question, is it the work that we are designed to do that makes us happy, or is it what makes us happy that we end up doing, right? I think that's your question. And the answer to that is you end up usually doing what you're really good at. That's what makes you happy. If you end up doing something that makes you happy, but you're bad at it, you won't be very happy very long, right? Like I wanted to be a baseball player. I wasn't good enough to be a baseball player, right? So eventually you realize, yeah, it makes me happy, but it's not in the long run, right? Does that answer your question? Does that make sense? So it's a process of trial and error based on certain innate abilities that you have. Some people have an innate ability of mathematics. At an early age, you can tell that they have an affinity for numbers or whatever. So naturally, their parents and themselves will gravitate towards analytical type of things. Does that make sense? So, and that's how the trial and error kind of happens. Yeah, I mean, for me, yes.
Yeah, also your mental, emotional, physical build also plays into your dharma. So like some people can handle a very, very large amount of stress versus others can't handle any stress.
Absolutely. Rasa was just saying, like your makeup, like your karmic makeup, the body that we have. So believe it or not, the body that you are in is what you were designed to be in. And Rasa's point is, we're a specific body. Some people can handle a lot more stress than other people, right? And so naturally, in a stressful type of situation or occupation, that they'll flourish where somebody else may find it just overwhelming. Yeah, absolutely. That's the point. We have certain bodies that we're going to carry out our dharma, but also enjoy the fruits of that dharma or suffer because of that body as well. It's all encompassing. Okay, cool. So that's the yes, Yashandran.
Just seeking a comment on this, because at least what I see is growing up, there are certain kind of milestones or markers that a typical successful person is supposed to achieve. Like by this age, you graduate, by this age, you get a job, by this age, fill in the blank. But what you're presenting is a much more nuanced and variegated view of success and fulfillment. So what would you suggest, like, if let's say general world is telling you you're a failure unless you meet these milestones, but that's opposed to, let's say, the budding intrinsic sense of happiness and worth that I'm cultivating that may not line up with that.
Mm-hmm. So So it's life is an experiment to a certain extent, right? And so we have natural affinities, and normal quote unquote schooling will help hopefully exploit those, at least find those what those are. And as the world tries to tell us what lane we should be in, and not even that lane, but what mile marker you should be at a certain age, right? And those are the pressures that are coming from this material world. It's a very, I said 1/3. There's 3 components. So maybe that's 1/3 of what will ultimately make us happy, or what will, get us in the right direction. But the last time I checked, you have to be whole in order to be completely happy, right? And so we'll get to the second and the third component, which are very happy. So we want to live our authentic life, and that may line up with what the world thinks that we should be doing, right? But what we're talking about here in big picture of things is we have to be true to ourselves, not necessarily true to somebody else, which is a lot of the pressure that we have from our family, and also the pressure from the world. So we have to figure out, what, as you guys are in school and as you guys are learning, one of the things you're learning is how to do your occupation, but then the other piece of it is, what is my value system? What is my value system? And once you start aligning your actions with your value system, then that may differ from what the world wants, but you know what? That will make you happy inside, right? My parents wanted me to be a lawyer, I think, or I think it was all over the place. Doctor, engineer, lawyer, and I'm in sales. So, but it aligns with what my personality is, right? So I hope I answered your question. Is that okay? Okay. Second piece. So the middle section of the Bhagavad Gita, it talks about love. So our riddle is live, love, and let go, right? I want you to live the most authentic life you can possibly live. That's what God wants for you. That's what you want. The meaning of life, that's the riddle, right? That's the question. The meaning of life is we want to live a very empowered life. That's covered in the Karma Yoga piece of the Bhagavad Gita. The second piece is love, and that's covered in the middle section. And what it talks about is you have to have loving relationships in order to be fulfilled. That makes sense, right? So let me ask you a question. Would you rather have success, like the most material success you could dream of, or would you rather have love? Yes, Rishabh.
No, you have second, you'll easily get first.
Second, if you have love, you think you'll have success.
No.
Success, you'll have love?
No.
No, he's saying the opposite. If you have love, you'll have success.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Material success.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Well, it depends on how you term success. If you're content with non-materialistic love and the finer things of the life,
Yeah.
poetry and the nature, river, and everything, and all that,
Yeah.
you're successful in life.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. What is love? Since we're going to define success in a minute, like you said, success definition could be something else. What's love? Affection. Okay. So what are you attracted to other people? Like, how are you attracted to other people? If there's attraction for somebody else that starts there, like, what is that? How do you, what attracts you to other people?
Intelligence.
Intelligence. Perfect. Yes.
Personality.
Huh?
Personality.
Personality. Okay. Anything else?
Body.
Thank you for saying what we all think. Physical attraction has to be there, right? So I messed up my pyramid. Where it is. Okay, so we're going to go with this. So it's basically a hierarchy. First, it's attraction, physical attraction, right? Then it moves on to intelligence, right? So if we want to have, how many people have experienced this, or you've heard of people that have a lot of friends, but they don't have they're unsatisfied with their relationships that they have. That's because Yeah, right, exactly.
It depends on how they define friends. Like I've seen different definitions of friends always. Like what my definition of friends is not someone else's definition of friends.
Right, Rishabh. So what we want to talk about is what constitute a fulfilling relationship, right? That gives us the satisfaction that we're looking for. And so attraction is definitely one of them. And it doesn't have to be a physical attraction between the opposite or anything like that. It just, you have to be attracted. And then you also have intelligence. You have to be able to, talk to somebody at the same intelligent level as you, right? Somebody that's smart. You can have meaningful conversations. So your connection's stronger, right? So your friendship is stronger. It's just not physical, meaning you're in the same class together. That's physical as well, right? Second is intelligence. Oh my God, you share a common interest. The person's smart, they're articulate, they really like to have deep conversations, right? So you'll have a stronger relationship there. So what's the third? Emotional. Okay, the third is if you're emotionally connected together. What's that? Trauma bonding could be one. I wasn't quite thinking that, but yes, that is one. Right? Emotionally meaning you share emotional, you care about cats. Okay, that's emotional, right? So saying is if you had all three of those, you would have a stronger relationship with that person versus if you did. Does that make sense? And then the fourth and the highest is spiritual. That's my point, right? So if you have a spiritual connection, you're connected to somebody on a spiritual level. Can you see how that relationship could be very, very strong? Yes, Rasa.
Can you define what that means to be connected with somebody on a spiritual level?
That you share the values. You have God. You're God-centric. You're searching for divinity. You understand divinity. You understand the relationship with divinity, meaning you understand yourself. So I'm going to get into. Thank you for asking that question, by the way.
That means soul-to-soul connection.
So I'm thinking, in order to have soul-to-soul connection, first you have. Yes. Did you want to say something? Okay.
Yeah, just like about the thing, the divinity thing.
Yeah.
My take on that is like when you see someone and you see how much devotion they have towards God or Krishna.
Yeah.
That is what. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to get to my punchline. You guys are trying to push me ahead, and I'm going to stand my ground. Now, I did a couple of things here real quick. Okay, this is a chart. Look at it and tell me how that makes you feel. It's basically telling you that you're going to end up spending more time alone as you age. And if you actually look at it, you probably spend more years by yourself than you do with other people, right? Friends. You guys have a lot of friends right now. Look where that happens. Kids, Ross and I can attest to this. You should have done it, don't be. They take up all your time now. You're like, are you serious? And then look what happens. And we're in that trajectory where maybe a couple of times a month we'll talk to them, and we'll see them in a few months or whatever. Our kids. So what this tells you is you spend a lot of time with yourself. Is that scary for some people? You don't have to. It could be. It could be. So the point is you have to become self-aware. You have to understand who you are because you're going to spend a lot of time together. If you notice a lot of the spiritual institutions, like pick a religion, and some of the spiritual training is what? They're alone. A lot of the monks spend a lot of time being alone. Why is that? Introspection. Because when you're alone, you start to understand who you are. You become more self-aware. And when you're more self-aware, guess what? You can be empathetic to other people because you know who you are, right? So that's the next step, is to become aware of who you are. And then after that, it's connecting with God and understanding who God is, right? So once you're comfortable with who you are yourself, and then you develop a relationship with Krishna or God or divinity, and then you start to understand that relationship together. Then you can have real meaningful relationships. Does that make sense? Where you're empathetic. And not only do you understand from your perspective, but you start to see things from other people's perspective. And you can be selfless. That's what also, when you start to create a relationship with God and you realize, oh my gosh, how selfless is God with me? That starts to leak over into your relationships. Does that make sense? Yeah? So if you live a life of proper action, then you can create loving relationships first by understanding who you are, connecting with God and having a relationship with God. And then you can become loving with others. So what? So remember that circle that we had? Now you've completed that circle. Now, not only are you attracted to your significant other, but you're connecting at an intellectual level, emotional level, and finally at the spiritual level. Does that make sense? Do you guys understand that how that can have like a profound impact on your ability to have really, really close relationships? Not just, your partner, but friends. You're more empathetic because you've gone up that ladder or pyramid of understanding who you are, understanding who God is and what that relationship is, and consequently, you're able to pass that on into your people that are around you in your circle of influence. Yeah. Any questions? Okay, I have a parable, and this is a Christian parable. Have you guys heard of the parable of the sower? Okay, so I'm going to try to do it really quick because our time is kind of limited. But this talks about, so I want to develop love. Fair enough, right? Bhagavad Gita, the middle section, is going to teach that. The parable that Jesus talks about is there's 4 people that are sowing. First one sows the seeds and they land on the ground. Doesn't really care. Well, those will never take root, right? Those seeds are gone. So that describes a person who hears the wisdom from the sages and decides, I'm not interested at all. So those seeds will never take root, right? But that's not us, because you guys wouldn't be here, right? So let's put that to the side. There's a second person that sows the seeds, and they sow the seeds into like pebbles and rocks. The field is not completely clean, and there's a lot of rocks around. Okay. The third person sows it, and there's a lot of thorns in the field that he sows his seeds. And then the fourth one puts it into fertile soil. Okay. So the first one we said the seeds don't eat, the birds ate the seeds. Gone. Second person that sowed those seeds into the rocks, they germinate, but they can't take root. They wither in the sun because there's no water, there's no, there's no soil. Okay, that's akin to hearing it but not applying it. Okay, does that make sense? The third person with the thorns, this is my favorite one, because this is where I think most of us end up at, where you sow the seeds and they take root, but then they get strangled by the thorns. Okay, they get strangled by the thorns. So what is those thorns for us? When we hear the wisdom, we start applying the wisdom, but then we have distractions, right? And these distractions eventually overtake the wisdom that we received. Does that make sense? It happens, okay? Then obviously the fourth one, who hears the wisdom and that fertile soil that's clean, doesn't have, there's no pebbles or thorns or anything like that. Now that one, you have a bountiful harvest. Yeah. So what's the moral of that story? Can anybody tell me? So the moral of that story is we have to be careful of what kind of heart that we're cultivating. Okay. So if our heart, if we have a pure heart, and how is a pure heart accomplished? Through our practice. Whatever religious practice that we have cleanses our heart, cleans the soil of the heart, if you will, takes away the thorns, takes away the pebbles, and eventually creates a fertile heart for what? For love. To have that connection with divinity, with God, with Krishna. And once you have that, then you can embody that with the people that are around you. That makes sense? Yeah, like that. So it's our whatever it is, whatever devotional practice we have, whatever sadhana it's called in the Vedic culture, whatever religious practice that you have, if you practice it with sincerity and faith, it will cleanse your heart, where God will be able to plant that seed and it'll grow. Cool. Can I move on now? Does that answer everybody's questions that you guys said? Yeah, a little bit. Rishabh really liked it. Thanks, Rishabh. He even shows that like you're a significant other, but that's really late. All right. Third, we're at the third part. So let's just do a quick review. What's the first section of the Bhagavad Gita? What does it teach us? Huh? How to live to our best of our abilities, aligned with our value system, with integrity, right? Where Shambhagi's jumping out of bed to go attack the day, right? No? Okay. What's number 2? Love. Why is love important?
We need it.
We need it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people are constantly talking about there's love songs, somebody's got love, and it's like somebody lost love, and then there's people looking for love in all the wrong places, right? So love is a big component of life, right? Okay, good. Third part. So we're going to do the trifecta now. The third part of the Gita that will give us the answer to our riddle of what's the meaning of life. We want to live authentically, we want to love deeply, and then we want to not be distracted by things that don't really matter. Okay? And I guarantee you, in this day and age, the first thing that comes to mind is this. This is the biggest distraction machine in the whole world, right? Like, it will take you places where you're like, where am I? Like, how did I get here? Right? And so you need the wisdom to be able to discern what's temporary and what's eternal. So it teaches you, it's basically jnana yoga, which is basically it's wisdom, right? And how, and specific to what we're talking about is, what is the wisdom of detachment? How to discern the temporary versus internal. So we all agree that the world is temporary and it's always changing, right? So here's my question. Why is this world designed that everything changes?
So you'll know what happens.
Go ahead.
So you'll know what is it and what is not.
My gosh. Okay. Yes, Rishabh.
I feel like it is by nature, by design, a thing that we are supposed to get attached. I don't think like nobody can be like non-attached, but because the world itself is changing by its very nature, you cannot stay attached here to anything for long. However, there's one thing that is unchanging, because eventually, like you'll see, like misery. You will find that unchanging thing, and then you'll attach yourself to that instead of the temporary stuff. That you'll figure it out. Like, oh,
wow. 2 spot on answers. Okay, Grish, finish it off.
You've already answered it, but
yeah.
the world's changing. We're looking for happiness, so we're just trying to find that, and we're not able to. So essentially, as I said, you try something, you're not satisfied. You're just on an infinite loop of, finding happiness. Everyone's stuck there.
Yeah.
But they're not able to find it.
These are great answers, you guys. Really thoughtful. What if the world was designed as temporary and changing to reveal to us who we truly, truly are? So if we discard everything that is temporary and changes, then what we're left with is what's eternal and what's real, what's authentic, and who we truly are. It's a beautiful concept. Well, right? But how many of us actually stop to contemplate that? Okay, so I'll share something else with you. So they say by the age of 25, you continue to grow intelligence until you're 25. Okay? And then after 25, you don't really learn a lot. Okay? So let me ask you a question. So how do you learn after 25 if education, the formal education is done? Experience. Great. So are you saying, like me, I'm older than you. Does that mean I'm smarter than Rishabh? Oh, maybe. Well, no, maybe not. Because I still do a lot of stupid things. So not necessarily experience, but what kind of experience? So it's experience that people have contemplated. They've sat down. So when you go through life, if you don't learn your lesson from the experience that you had, then it's a worthless experience. Right? So you have to contemplate, hey, what was the clue here? What was the meaning? What am I supposed to learn? Right? And that's how you learn, right? And so so we have to be able to understand that if we are not contemplative, meaning we don't start to discern what you guys just said, which is what's temporary, what's changing, it's not really me, then you'll never learn that lesson. That's what happens to most of us, right? So it's the experiences that we have in life, but if we have to really think through to say, hey, does this matter in my life? In the bigger picture, is it eternal or is it temporary? We have to be contemplated. That's the point. So thank you. Okay. So do you guys remember this? Krishna actually says, time I am. It's in a movie, I believe, just a small little movie, right? Oppenheimer is in it in there. They quote that verse. Yeah. So it's time and I am. I am, destroyer of the worlds, and I have come to engage all people. With the exception of you, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. So the point is, Krishna has actually designed the world where the time, as it moves forward, everything kind of perishes. And so at the end, if we don't realize it in our life along the way by contemplative experiences, we're going to realize it when? Or when are we going to realize it? Death. It's finished. Too late. Does that make sense? Okay, let's go on. So we talked about it. Designed for us to discover who we are and not what we are not. Nature's way of removing all things we are not. What's left is who we actually are. Detachment. Letting go of things we are not. So that's detachment. That's the last 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita to really identify. It's doing in the negative. Well, we're not this, so we shouldn't be attached to this. Right? Okay. So unlocking the riddle of life. What makes us happy? What is the meaning of life? Is to live authentically, what we were meant to do, both on a day-to-day basis, like what our dharma is from a work perspective, our prescribed duties, right? That's one piece of it. And then our eternal dharma, which is what? Is to find self-awareness and our connection with God, and then be able to experience that through connection with other people. So, why are you guys here today? Food. Good answer. Anybody else? Find happiness. He came for the yes.
Solve the riddle.
Solve the riddle. Right. Right. Okay. So, can I ask you a question? Do you guys ever wonder, like, why people, like somebody who just go with devotees or even like really, devout Christians, devout anything, why are they so excited to share what they have or what they perceive they have? Donovan, why do people like, why do people like, why am I up here on a Friday night after a long week's worth of work, sitting here talking about the Bhagavad Gita, and more importantly, why are you guys here? You guys are in your young 20s. What are you doing here? Let's answer that question. Why?
We like to share what we're happy about.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know, if I had a new movie that I liked, I'm gonna tell my friend, hey, you know, I saw this movie that I really love.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like this for me or you know the voting thing, you know, we're sharing our experience because it's like we know what it was like miserable, you know, and now we're finding all this happiness. We're sharing our happiness.
Oh, beautiful. Yes. Yes.
I want to add on that. Sharing is the first part, but it's also because the nature of the resource is infinite. So if it's money, yeah, money makes all of us happy. But you keep giving money, you're gonna be on the road.
Yeah.
But since what you're sharing, you know it's nice and it's infinite. Even if you share it, you're not gonna lose anything. So your good parts get activated, and you just like take free.
Okay. Good. Yes.
Maybe at some point,
That's beautiful, actually.
somewhere down the line, when you look at stuff around you, you stop getting, like what Rishabh said, it's not infinite. So you stop feeling happiness from like the material stuff. So you turn to find like a greater source of happiness, something that's more permanent. So
And you want to share that.
yeah.
I like that. If you only have a finite amount of money, you're like, I can't give any more than that. Yeah. Yes.
The more knowledge you try to keep it with yourself, the more it will hold you back. But the more knowledge you will try to share it with others, so it will set you free.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
like I also want to add, like for example, we have many elevated souls and sages. So once they attain that particular level, they are like their consciousness is aligned with the divine.
Yeah.
So they are not allowed to sit and enjoy in the caves. So they are being instructed to come. They are being instructed to come to the earth and share the wisdom with others.
So your answer is, hey, you have something special. It's not for you to hold yourself. You're supposed to share. Perfect. Spot on. Yes.
When we share something, it increases, and if you don't share it, it wanes. So if you are sharing happiness, it increases.
Very nice. Beautiful thoughts. Anybody else want to add in? These are all, these are all beautiful points why people would want to share. But also, how about this? You guys are so altruistic. I'm going to be a little selfish. What if you gain happiness by sharing it? What if you become purified by sharing it? So instead of being the sage who's already got the information, what if I told you, whatever you know, if you share, you will know more. However happy I feel now, the more I share, I'll be more happier. That's the secret, the power of spirituality. Regardless of the denomination or religion, not only, you guys were 100% right. You share because you have to share it. There's unlimited amounts of it, so give it all away. Material things, you can't do it. You guys 100% right. You have it. It's your responsibility to share it with people, right? And on and on and on, right? But what's so beautiful about it is it also helps you in your spiritual life grow. So I'll give you a quick example. Preparing for this lecture, I learned things, right? I learned about some parables. I learned about how to organize my thoughts, about how the Bhagavad Gita is actually set up, right? I'm like, oh, I've read the Bhagavad Gita several times, like we all have, right? However, when you actually dive in and say, oh, that's how it's set up. So karma yoga is really designed for us to fulfill our action, so it's empowering for us. So it gives us fulfillment. All I hear is, oh my God, don't do anything for yourself. It always becomes, no, we are all born with a certain dharma that we're going to have to carry out. The key is for us to carry out that dharma while keeping God in the center. And don't forget that the equation is threefold, not just one-fold. Yeah. Okay, cool. Any questions? That was my presentation. Live, love, and let go.
Surprise.
Huh? Shambhavi said there's a prize, and that wasn't me. Who was that other chat who said there's a prize?
Wait, I didn't say anything.
Oh, I don't know. Somebody said there's a prize if you come. Who was it, Rishabh? Did you put that on there?
I think you said on the front, but you said
You should have said-
No, I said the prize is dinner.
Oh, the prize is dinner. There you go.
Free food.
Free food. Yes.
Going back to the story maker story,
Yes.
what if the king didn't actually love his job? But there are so many people dependent on him that he still has to do his job.
Hmm.
Even though he finds free time to do what he loves, he still has to go on a daily basis to his job and do his job. What happens then?
Perfect. Beautiful question. So what's so cool about spirituality? What I covered today is a microcosm. We can have subsequent classes about each chapter of the Bhagavad Gita and each subject that we talked about. So we can go more and more. So like to your point, his point is like, hey, what if, you got to do a job to provide for your family, right? You may not love it, but you're good at it.
But then are you happy? Are you not happy? What happens then?
Okay, so let's take that, keep going. So providing for your family provides a little level of happiness. So the happiness may not come directly from the job or occupation that you may be doing, but it's what comes with that. What are you providing for that with that job, right? And so that could be a source of happiness. So there's that way to looking at it. And I can almost describe my life as that way as well. Like, I ain't really like sales, but and you end up making good money, you end up providing for your families, which gives me happiness. And then before you know it, then you're established in your career. Then I start to say, oh, my skill sets do match with this. Like, okay, I've got some skills that I became good at it. And then when you become good at something, you end up liking it, is what my experience has been, right? Does that answer your question? So I know as college students or even young people, or even I'll just use myself an example, is like sometimes you're like, oh, what is the perfect thing I'm supposed to do? What is the perfect thing I'm supposed to do? Well, there may not be a perfect thing per se that gives you, how many times people say, so, I want to, I finally found something that gives me so much happiness, right? Okay, that's temporary. Really, our dharma is to align our skill set with what we're supposed to do. So prescribed duties also come with whether you're going to have a family. So if you have a family, you need to be able to have an income. Okay, so that changes the equation. If you don't plan on having a family, that really changes. Now you can be an artist. And it doesn't have to worry about making money, right? So you can align yourself with what makes you happy versus balancing where you have to provide as well. Right. Cool. And then even quote unquote, not in society's perception, a really high level job can provide the most important the greatest satisfaction to you because you get to provide for your family that way. So I'll tell you this personal thing. When you're young, you always want to know what the other person does. And then when you're in your 30s, you really want to know what the other person, because you got this competition in you. You're like, what's your title? I'm a director. Oh, huh? What is it? Competition and things like that, right? And so what I find out is as you get a little bit older than that, you start talking less about what the other person does and who the other person actually is. What's important to them in life. Because you understand that these things are not necessarily completely who you are. And that comes with time and kind of what we're talking about. You start to go through the other sections of it. Maturity. Well, maturity, and you start to go from live to love, right? And let go. Those start to play a bigger role, those last two, because you start to figure out, hey, this is not as important to me as it once used to be, because now I am able to provide for my family. So what if you're sort of none that can go on 2 vacations in a year. I can only take my family on 1. Right? Okay. Anybody else? Questions? Yes.
With these 3 of live, love, and let go, you talked about how it's kind of they're each 1/3 of the equation. Is it also necessarily that you need one to establish the other, like before I can understand or internalize what it means to love, I have to first understand what it means to live.
Okay, so it's a combination of knowledge, and practice, right? I think we had talked about it last semester, even to a certain extent. In order to, I think, I ended up doing that, where you have to have book knowledge and you have to have the experimental practical knowledge in the lab, right? In order to get the full knowledge, correct? So it's the same type of concept. So you have to have, it's not, I've mastered this, now I move on to this and then move on to that. It's a combination. And what ends up happening in your spiritual life as you start to progress, you'll start to see where one equation starts to balance out with the other. You naturally will lead to what you're missing, kind of thing. That's been my personal experience. You should have done. Yeah. Anybody else? Somebody's got to have questions up there. I know I didn't make sense to everybody. Anybody? Is it thought-provoking at least? Yeah? This conversation that we're having? It's, when you look at Bhagavad Gita from that perspective, when it says, oh, shoot, it wants me to live my best life, right? Isn't that what we hear? Isn't that lingo that we hear? Is like, oh, live your best life. Well, the Bhagavad Gita wants you to live your best life. No doubt. No doubt. Live your best life. Okay? I want to find love. Well, Bhagavad Gita wants you to find love at the most deepest level possible. Okay? So it's an incredible tool for us to build our life up. So the guidebook is the Bhagavad Gita. The people that you surround yourself will help you learn the guidebook a little bit better. Right, Rishabh? So that's all I have. Thank you, guys.
I would have been mad.
Yeah, appliable knowledge and knowledge. Yeah, genuine knowledge, genuine people are like, the point is to hear it. Yeah, so you got that.
So we're gonna have a kirtan right now. So it's a call and response. So I'm sure you know. The mantra that Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I'll be singing, and then all of you have to respond. And we have some instruments, so please feel free to pick anything. If anyone knows how to play the flute, just let me know. I have a flute also.
So, hi guys, and welcome to the new semester. I hope you guys are enjoying it so